In this video, I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process on how to start your own business here in 2023 in the United States. We're going to run through the following. What qualifies as a business if you are an individual, self-employed person? Exactly how do you register then on the state and federal websites? What's the difference between a sole proprietor and an LLC? How do you budget for taxes? What is a tax write-off? How do you find a bank account? And lastly, some final thoughts. Let's get started. Number one, what is classified as a self-employed business or a business that can just have one individual in the United States? So I think often when we have the business idea in our heads, we think of some prestigious corporation with multiple different partners or an LLC with multiple different members or owners of that business and this huge business that needs to just keep expanding. But every single business started somewhere, right? Which brings me to my first point. Most startup businesses start with one person with an idea, and that person can register as a business. So typical single-person businesses include the following. Number one, an independent contractor. If you have a skill set, say for example, you are a retired engineer or just an engineer with a lot of experience, and you are now wanting to provide subcontract work that's very valuable to a larger firm, you yourself is considered a business. Subcontractors are technically their own single businesses. Freelances, if you're a personal trainer or if you're a freelance photographer, a personal chef, or a ghostwriter, you yourself should be a contract worker or business, legally speaking. Uber or Lyft driver. So underneath the multi-corporation umbrella of Uber and Lyft drivers, individual Lyft drivers are actually not employed by Uber. They are actually contracted by Uber to perform a service. Therefore, they're also their own businesses. Third-party sellers. For example, if you work to be a dropshipping company eventually on Shopify or Amazon using affiliate marketing, you yourself are definitely still a business as a seller. And lastly, a content creator. So if you're on TikTok, making Instagram, or if you're on YouTube, as content creators, you are a business. Okay, so there are typically two types of businesses that are legal for individual business owners in the United States, and that is a sole proprietor versus an LLC. Sole proprietors, most of the time freelancers, contractors, personal trainers, and consultants would like to be a sole proprietor if they are just themselves choosing to file taxes that way because you as yourself and the business is pretty much intertwined. That is extremely risky because you are not separate as the owner from your business, which means that if there is ever a liability, you cannot be protected from your private assets and expenses away from your business, which is why most people choose the second option actually, single member LLCs. So LLCs stands for a limited liability company. And in the United States, they're a little like LTDs. Most LLCs are multiple member owned, meaning that multiple people own the business. Some LLCs are single member LLCs. So as an individual contractor or as a business person, you can have an LLC just with you and yourself. And a lot of people choose LLCs for the following reasons. One, an LLC gives the most leeway for expansion. So if you decide one day that you want to start hiring, you're no longer a sole proprietor, i.e. it's not just you in the business, you have someone else to hire. And it's so much easier because an LLC allows for that without going through the legality of having to change the business completely. Two is you as an owner separated from the business, which means that your assets and your expenses are then protected. Obviously, if your LLC ever goes bankrupt, you as the owner can be protected from that. And I think number three, which is really the most important reason why most people choose LLCs is that in America, different states offer a lot of perks for LLCs. All right, so going to register your business as a legal entity on the state website. There are a ton of scammers online. There are two typical US domain names that you can trust. And I say this with a little bit of itch because sometimes it could be a little bit of a difference that you can't notice. .gov and .us, those are two federally and state protected domain names that are used by the United States officials. I would go directly to the state website. Don't go to any, oh yeah, this is a Zoom call for like $3,000 before we show you how to start a business. Those are kind of risky. Just go onto the state website that I've actually posted in the references below. This is for obviously the state of Colorado. If you live in a different state, which most of you do, go onto your state website and go onto the Secretary of State subdivision. So for Colorado Secretary of State, right when we get to it, there's a tab called Business, as you see over here, and right underneath Business it says Start a Business. Yay! So click on that and you'll see they try to let you know what the difference between LLCs, corporations, S-Corp is. As an individual, you pretty much are going to choose single member LLC or sole proprietor. So let's say I choose limited liability company, LLC. I press next. There's a different forms that you can read. And then it asks you the first question, which is form your name. So your name, given the list over here, step-by-step entity names, you can come up with pretty much any name you want. If you're really unsure if your name is taken, don't worry, because once you get to the end and you submit, if your name has been taken, or if you click next, they'll say, oh, by the way, the name has been taken. So when you proceed with this website, you'll notice that there is a question asking for a registered agency. What that is a fancy name for a direct line of communication between the Secretary of State office and you as a business. So that could either be you as an individual, or if you have an assistant, for example, that assistant as an individual, or the entity or the business. So I have my registered agency as just my business. That really just means that all the different state emails that has reminders about my business, any kind of legality, go straight to my business account. Let's say if you want your business email address to be separate from your personal email address and you want the Secretary of State to send all of the information regarding your business to your personal email address, then maybe register as an individual. And lastly, there's something called the DBA, or doing business as. That's typically just a trade name. So if we think of Costco Wholesale Corporation is the actual corporation legal name, of which Costco is just a trade name, or doing business as. Costco does business as Costco Wholesale, Costco Gas, or just what we know as Costco. And with that regard, it allows the Costco Wholesale Corporation to have different subsidiaries of additional businesses they run under, all of different entities. I would say that that is definitely something to consider if you're expanding your business in future. But for right now, as an individual, if you're just starting a business as a single person, you don't have to have a DBA necessarily, unless you know about it a lot and you know you want to trade under a different name. Periodic reporting. So this is something that is very unique to the state. In Colorado, we have to file a report annually to the Secretary of State office, just to make sure that as a business we're in good standing and we're not going bankrupt. So actually, once you have your business account registered on the state website, the SOS office will actually send you frequent emails updating you on what's going on, some news, any interesting information you need to know about. And when it comes time to file these periodic reports, they will remind you of it. Registering with the IRS. Okay, so the only most important thing the IRS cares about is the employer identification number. That is the single most important number the IRS cares about because it's the number of which you file taxes with as a business.
I don't know if there's anything else really the IRS cares about other than like high interest rates and taxes.
Anyway, so as the link that I've dropped down below for the federal IRS website, you'll be brought to a page called Apply for an Employer Identification Number EIN. What's important right now about this website is that it's not operating 24/7. So it says over here from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. I've actually tried times outside of that time zone, it doesn't work. So make sure if you want to submit your business legally with the feds, you can only go with that time frame. Step 3, submit your application, and you can click on it, say okay to whatever, go to application, and then it allows you to pretty much do the same process as you would otherwise do with the state website, doing an LLC, and then going ahead. All the information is very similar until the last step where they grant you an EIN number. Something to note over here is that the spelling of which you have for the state and federal website registrations need to be the exact same. They need to match, because when it comes time for taxes, literally the difference between you and another person with a very similar name could literally just be a spelling error, and it can cause all kinds of confusion in both offices. So make sure your address and your name and you as an individual, your name and all the different social security, whatnot, every single bit of detail is the same here. They line up, they match up. I think the only aspects that the IRS website doesn't like is the comma. So some people will have, let's say, the Cupcake Operating Business, comma, LLC. I believe the IRS doesn't really enjoy the comma, so just leave that out. Other than that, everything should be the exact same. Choosing a business bank account. So you have different taste buds to everyone around you, so make sure you can pick something to work with. But make sure it's simple, you guys. So don't go with your first business account being this extravagant, pay $200 fees and this is the interest rates, etc. If you know in the very beginning of your business, you're not gonna really make a profit. Tax write-offs. What that is any expenses that you have to take out as a business owner to pour into your business. The IRS has incentives for that could lower your taxes, i.e. a tax deduction. In general, for every business across the board, most business expenses would be something like the office, if you had to rent out an office, water bills, electricity bills, phone bills, in some cases even insurance or some kind of benefits you give to employees if you give your employees benefits, cars. Sometimes the IRS doesn't give you 100% deductions. Sometimes, for example, meals and travel, I believe is 50%, or maybe just meals in general is 50%, but make sure you're educated that there's so many deductions. In general, I would say, if you spend money on your business, save it, because even if the IRS gives you just a little bit back, it's still considered worthy. You can actually file losses for your business. So let's say, because businesses are hard to build, for the first 1 or 2 years, your business is spending more money than it's making on income, you can file something called the net operating loss deduction. So yes, the IRS will compensate you in terms of tax credits for any losses that you take. And there is a certain limit on that, but it really depends on your business and how it's going and what your standing is. Be careful on that one. Don't file losses every year because there's going to be a certain point where the federal and state government is going to consider your business unworthy because it's not generating profit if you keep filing for net operating losses year on year. At that point in which you will not have good standing anymore and your business could be considered bankrupt. And that is why most businesses don't pay a large portion of taxes. Which brings me to my next and final point, save for taxes. So yes, because of the different tax write-offs, technically and theoretically, small businesses don't have to pay as much taxes. But on paper, small businesses are counting for business taxes and individual income taxes. So as a rule of thumb, if you're new to the small business world as an individual, budget out, save 30% for taxes. And honestly, if that is an overkill and you've saved a lot of money and you don't know why, at the very end, you don't have to pay the taxes. You can just put it back into a high yield savings account. But in the beginning, save 30% taxes to cover for contingency because you never know what could go wrong. As you can tell, it is extremely easy for anyone to start a business here in the United States. What's not so easy is the operation part and maintaining and keeping a business. So if I have to think of how a business works, it will go as something like the following. You'll have inspiration, product or idea or service idea. You have formation, grind time, scale, and invest. And the two hardest parts of that entire line is the grind and scale part. And most people fall off the rails there because grind time for a business is where you literally say no to stuff and you sit down and you start making the business pretty much reality. And scale is if, say, the business has a little bit of results and now you're trying to make it even bigger and broader. Those two moments are gonna take you the longest time in your business to achieve, and it's often where people fall off the rails and drop out. If you have a business idea right now, I would say give yourself some time to think about it. If this video inspired you to start a business and you want to go for it immediately, do this. Do yourself a favor, do me a favor, write your business idea down, go research it, go think about it, give yourself 1 to 3 months of time to process it before you do something. I don't want everyone to act out of impulse because acting out of impulse could really lead to some damaging effects down the line. Really research your service, your product idea before you start. And make sure you understand the legality that goes behind all of it. So I give you the points and I gave them to you really quickly because this is only like a 10-ish minute video. Go research them more, but make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Take care, you guys.